Oli mi Bori. This is Scarlett Alicea, and I am recording my very first episode of the podcast La Nu Boricua. And what La Nu Boricua means to me is someone that is reconnecting with being Puerto Rican, someone who is connecting for the first time. It can also be somebody that already feels very connected to Boricua culture, whether you were born and raised in Puerto Rico or whether you are from the United States or elsewhere and you have Boricua blood. I think that La Nu Boricua is those of us that care about our culture, care about preserving our culture. So it includes all of us. Those born and raised here in Puerto Rico. I'm so grateful to be here in San Juan, Puerto Rico, living here again for the first time since I was 20. So it's been a long time. I think I was turning 21, so it's been 12 or so years. I'm 33 now, and I think it's way past due for myself and many of us to connect with being Puerto Rican. Full disclosure, not that it matters, because if you're Puerto Rican, you're Puerto Rican. But I am technically only half Puerto Rican. And I think that has given a lot of people pause that think that they have a right to celebrate being Puerto Rican more than me because of blood quantity. I'm also a poet, so that rhymed. But while I might not be 100%, my heart and my soul is Boricua. And I know that many of you out there, no matter what your blood quantity is, 100% or not, feel this way. And I know that many of you relate to feeling disconnected from your Boricua side. I know this happens to people that move from Puerto Rico at a young age to the States, because that's typically the picture that we see, or people that were just born in the States whose parents left or whose grandparents left Puerto Rico. I know that we can still preserve our culture in many ways. Many households did. And many of us turned out as the quote unquote no sabos. And for those of you that don't know, a no sabo, a no sabo is someone with Latino heritage, which we can break down the word Latino in another podcast. But those of us with Latino heritage who do not speak Spanish for whatever reason. And I think for a lot of us, it becomes that way because our parents didn't share the language with us for whatever reason. It can be that they felt shame, that they were forced to speak English. I know in my case, I really didn't grow up with my Puerto Rican parent past the age of 8 very much. Things were kind of hectic in my household growing up. I didn't have a perfect childhood, like many of us. And I really felt like I missed out on connecting with that Puerto Rican side of me because I was mostly raised by my mother and my eldest sister. I got to give her a shout out. So I am excited to be here in Puerto Rico again. I was born and raised in Florida, and I had an opportunity to live here when I was 20 years old for about 6 months with my titi in Bayamon. And I love my titi for that. And I love my Puerto Rican family here for that, for helping me become connected to Puerto Rico and what it means to be Boricua. And I think when I left, I went to college, I finished college. I studied cultural anthropology, which is so interesting to me now that this degree I was wondering if I would ever use is finally coming in handy. But I went on a different path for a while. I went on many different paths. I assume many people, especially if you're my age, have taken many different paths, been many different people. And so with all the chaos of the world and especially when you're living in the United States and you get caught up in the grind of capitalism. It it's easy to become disconnected from this side, but my goal is to reunite us back with this part of ourselves that we may have lost or never felt connected to. My goal is to share with you all as I learn what I learn. We're learning this together, okay? This is your Boricua classroom. I plan to talk about things that I learn as I go. I plan to have some brilliant, fabulous guests on the show that maybe some of you might know. I I really just want to talk about what matters and teach each other about our culture. We may have been we may have felt gate kept from previously. There will be no gatekeeping here. As I learn things, I will share them with you. And what's interesting and funny, if you follow me on social media, you know that I can be messy in my learning process. I, especially learning to speak Spanish, mess words up quite a bit. Sometimes I misunderstand things, but I want to show you the process of learning is not linear. It's not just uphill. You will go through ups and downs of reconnecting with your culture and relearning Spanish or whatever, however you connect with this journey. There will be ups and downs, but that's why we're here together. I don't want you to feel alone. Sometimes it's easy to feel alone, especially since I moved here to Puerto Rico. Like, I left all of my friends behind in the States. I have my family has connection here, but that's that's its own thing. So I felt this kind of isolation and a need for community that understands, because none of my family can really understand this experience of being someone from the United States who really wasn't raised culturally Puerto Rican, but like loves their Puerto Rican culture and wants to connect with that. You know, my family, they're already connected to it. And I think for Puerto Ricans in the island that obviously are already connected to Puerto Rican culture growing up here. Although I've noticed some people here are Americanized, and that's another topic we can talk about. But they're already so connected to their culture. So they might not be as excited about it. They might not have that fresh, new perspective that those of us that are relearning or connecting for the first time can bring to Puerto Rican culture, because we have so much to celebrate. It's so bright, it's so beautiful, and we have a lot to preserve because, as many of us have been talking about the last few years, we can slowly see some of our Boricua culture slipping away in Puerto Rico. And a lot of that is because our parents and grandparents left. And I understand that there is a fear sometimes for people from the island of welcoming New Yorkers or welcoming Boricuas from the United States back to Puerto Rico or to come here for the first time, you know, because as it is, the culture is slipping here where it is so sacred and the richest part of it. So I want us all to understand that we can step back into our culture respectfully. We can preserve it together. And in fact, it is our responsibility, and we are not different. I know it's easy to see each other as different sometimes, but we aren't. I mean, we are. But I mean, like, we have a lot in common, is what I mean. And we share common goals, such as making Puerto Rico a better place and not seeing a Puerto Rico without Puerto Ricans. Because if people keep leaving Puerto Rico, that's what we're going to see one day. And we're already on the track to see it, because people that aren't Puerto Rican are already moving here regardless of what people say, regardless if people are asking them not to. There are people coming here taking advantage of tax breaks that Puerto Ricans do not receive. So it is our birthright, our sacred responsibility to come together and to make a change in love. So the first step for many of us is understanding the culture, because preserving the culture, you need to understand it. And I've also seen that even Boricuas here don't even know all their history. Sometimes I'll be talking about things and I see that people aren't aware. But this happens in the States too. It happens everywhere, right? Like, some people just aren't that into history or aren't into hot topics or have really critically thought about some of some things. So I think this is a space that we can really talk about those things in a real way, in a real and authentic way, because my number one goal always is to be authentic as well. So, success is never worth it if it's not authentic. So we need to approach, just as I'm approaching this podcast, from an authentic voice, because I can't be anyone but myself. That's exhausting. We need to open our hearts and come together authentically, come at these issues authentically, and be really open to understanding, to being wrong and being corrected, but also to having pride and not letting people tell us that we cannot connect with our culture, because we can. We have a right to it. If you're Boricua, you have a right to your culture. You should do it respectfully, but you have a right. And like I said, I do think it's also a responsibility, because if you don't, then it could end with you. Your Puerto Rican heritage could end with you. If your parents celebrated their culture and didn't pass it on to you, or for whatever reason you didn't have it passed on, it ends with you. And you don't want that. Well, maybe you don't care, but at least have it for you. If you're not going to have children, if you're not going to pass it on to other Boricuas, then at least have it for you, because it's so beautiful. Okay, this is just the beginning. We have so much to talk about. I love you guys so much. A big abrazo. Abrazo. See, that's me. There's part of me that wants to cut these things out, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to, because we're learning. Abrazo. Abrazo. There we go. It's a little better. I'm really working on my pronunciation. I speak a lot of Spanish, but I get shy. I get a little panicky when speaking to bilingual people, especially because they can understand just how bad my accent is. But anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. You can expect at least one episode a week, but I'm going to try to do two. Have a great day.